In the Christian faith, Corpus Christi is one of the most interesting holidays. It may not be observed by all religions because it is so complicated. It has been passed down through generations for thousands of years, but many people still don't know where it came from or what it means. The truth is that the story of Corpus Christi is skewed and misread a lot of the time, even by Christians who don't get what it means. But from now on, we'll work together to find out what really happened. Let's start the video right away. The story starts in the year 1263. At that time, Europe was a patchwork of people with strong religious views and customs. There was a priest from Prague. This priest, whose name was Peter, was having a big confidence problem. He had serious questions about whether or not Jesus Christ was really present in the Holy Eucharist. This was a very painful issue for him. The priest made the decision to go on a journey to Rome, the eternal city, in order to find answers and improve his faith. At that time, a lot of Christians went to Rome to visit the tombs of the apostles, St. Peter and St. Paul, in order to gain more faith and divine grace. So Peter left Prague and went through many different areas on his spiritual journey. He chose to stop in the town of Bolsena on the way. It was known that the people of Bolsena loved St. Christina, who was a virgin and heroine from the 3rd or 4th century. Bolsena, with its huge and beautiful lake, was a place with a lot of religious past and faith. People called St. Christina the Saint of Misfortunes because she was tried for murder many times because of her faith. St. Christina was born into a pagan family, but she became a Christian at a young age, even though her parents didn't want her to. Her strong faith in Christianity made her father, who was a powerful person in the town of Bolsena, very angry. In order to get her to give up her faith, her father tortured her and tried to kill her several times. However, according to legend, all efforts to kill her failed because of supernatural help. His last plan was to tie a heavy stone to Christina's body and throw her into Lake Bolsena, where he thought she would die. However, a miracle took place. The stone that St. Christina was tied to magically stayed afloat on the water's surface, keeping her alive and keeping her from dying. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching the movie if you want to know what happens next. As the stone floated, St. Christina stayed on it, knowing that God was watching over her. This amazing and magical event showed that God was watching over St. Christina while she was having a hard time. Also, St. Christina's tracks were still on the stone after she floated on it. People still believe that these footprints are proof of the miracle that happened and a holy keepsake for the faithful. Over the years, the footprints have been kept as a reminder of St. Christina's presence and the spiritual help that kept her from dying. Christians in Bolsena and travelers who came to the city to get healed, be protected, or get spiritual advice came to revere and worship St. Christina's tracks on the stone. Due to this amazing event, Christina's father passed out and died after seeing the child perform. Even after she died, Christina escaped many attempts to be a victim, but until she died, she was always saved by God. In Bolsena, people had a strong devotion to St. Christina, and many visitors went to her tomb to ask for benefits. In this highly religious environment, the priest Peter chose to hold a mass and asked St. Christina to help him have stronger faith that Christ really was present in the Eucharist. Something really strange happened at the Mass that Father Peter led in the town of Bolsena. Peter lifted the sacred host during the moment of consecration because he was still having doubts about whether or not Christ was really present in the Eucharist. After that, the host started to bleed. He got blood on his hands, and the corporal, which was a square piece of cloth set on the altar, blood came from the host. This amazing event happened out of the blue and shocked not only Peter, but also the other believers who were there. They watched in awe and respect. Father Peter couldn't keep celebrating the Mass because he was too emotional, shocked, and spiritually relieved. Carefully putting the bleeding host on the corporal, he walked to the sacristy, tears of joy and renewed service in his eyes. As he moved, drops of blood hit the floor and the steps of the platform, leaving marks that could never be erased and would be kept as holy treasures. Early in the morning, word of the miracle quickly spread through the church, and other priests came to examine the event. It impressed everyone that they could see proof of the miracle, the bloody body and the bloody stones. Still shocked and full of thanks, Peter chose to take the bloody body and tell Pope Urban IV, who was in the nearby town of Orvieto, about the miracle himself. When Peter got to Orvieto, he told the Pope everything that had happened. The story touched the Pope so much that he saw the miracle as a holy sign that Christ really is present in the Eucharist. He talked about the vision that Saint Juliana of Liège had, in which she saw the need for a special day to celebrate the Eucharist. Let's take a moment to talk about this beautiful and interesting story in more depth. The Feast of Corpus Christi got its start with a lot of help from Saint Juliana of Liège. At the beginning of the 1300s, Juliana, a 16-year-old nun, started having mystical dreams that showed there needed to be a special gathering for the Eucharist. A bright white disc with a dark spot on one side was seen in one of these dreams. She was very interested in this picture, and she prayed for many years to try to figure out what it meant. After some deep spiritual thought, Juliana finally understood that the white disc stood for the Church and its love for the Eucharist. But the dark spot meant that there wasn't a specific feast that properly honored the Blessed Sacrament. There was already a holiday called Holy Thursday, which celebrated the beginning of the Eucharist. But this holiday was also linked to the sadness of Christ's Passion. Jesus wanted a happy and somber feast that was all about the glory of the Eucharist, Juliana realized. Juliana didn't want to tell anyone about her dreams for 20 years until she finally got the courage to tell Jacques Pantaleon, a priest she trusted. He was sure that Juliana's dreams were real and told her to get her word out there. But time went on, and Juliana died. After that, her dreams became less clear. After many years, the priest Jacques Pantaleon became Pope Urban IV. He was the only one who knew about Juliana's dreams. When Pope Urban IV heard what Father Peter had to say, he was deeply touched and knew right away what the miracle meant. The Pope knew this miracle was a sign from God because he had a strong spiritual sense, and remembered St. Juliana of Liège's vision, which had shown her that a feast would be needed to honor the Eucharist. He made up his mind to act quickly to make sure the event was real and to start spreading the wonder and creating a new religious feast. Pope Urban IV got together a group of respected scholars and experts, such as the famous St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure, to check out the miracle. They were sent to Bolsena to look into what happened and see the relics, because they were known for being wise and holy. Some of philosophers like St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure looked at the facts very carefully. They looked at the bloody body and the bloody stones and asked the faithful who saw the miracle to give their accounts. Once it was proven that the miracle really happened, the group of scholars started planning the trip back to Orvieto, taking the holy items with them, including the bloody body. The miracle story was already getting around, and as the group left Bolsena, many religious people in the area began to follow them, filled with emotion and awe. As they moved forward, the crowd kept growing, with people from nearby villages and towns joining the parade. As the procession got closer to Orvieto, Pope Urban IV chose to go meet them because he had heard that the remains had been successfully verified and were on their way. Along with clergy and other important church members, the Pope got out of his ceremonial car as they got closer to the bridge, where the theologians and the parade of followers were waiting. When the group got to the bridge, it was a very sad and emotional time. Pope Urban IV knelt in prayer in front of the magical relics that stood for the Eucharist while wearing his papal robes. He took the bloody body and the blessed food with great respect, and then started walking with the parade toward the city of Orvieto. This was the first time the Eucharist was carried through a parade, which would become an important part of the Corpus Christi celebration. Based on the scholars' confirmation and the event's deep spiritual importance, Pope Urban IV chose to hold a solemn feast to honor the Eucharist. In 1264, he put out the bull Transiturus, which said that the feast of Corpus Christi should be created. The bull stressed how important it was to renew trust in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, especially at a time when many heresies were questioning this teaching. The Pope saw the feast as a way to encourage people to love the Eucharist more and improve their faith. He also talked about how Eucharistic miracles, like the one at Bolsena, were holy proofs that Christ was really present in the blessed bread and wine. Pope Urban IV made sure that the new celebration would have a rich and deeply spiritual service after the feast was set as a holiday. To make sure the rite captured the spirit and glory of the Eucharist, the Pope asked some of the most famous philosophers of his time to write the song and prayers that would be used during the solemnity. Theologians like St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Bonaventure were called. They were both intellectual and spiritual stars in the 1300s. All the scholars gathered in front of the Pope when it was time to launch the songs. The first person to show his work was St. Thomas Aquinas, who was known for his deep piety and scholarship. "Praise, O Zion!" St. Thomas began to sing his song, the Lauda Sion. This hymn's beautifully written lines show that people believe that Christ is really present in the Eucharist and that this rite should be treated with respect. There were so many great things about St. Thomas's performance that all the other scholars present were moved to silence by how perfect and heavenly his words were. All of them took a deep breath and tore up their own papers, knowing that St. Thomas's work was better. They agreed that St. Thomas's song perfectly captured the spirit and purpose of the new feast. It was made the national song for the Feast of Corpus Christi. Not only did this event show how great St. Thomas Aquinas was as a philosopher and poet, but it also showed how united and humble the Church's greatest thinkers were in choosing the best work to honor the Eucharist. Pope Urban IV started celebrating the Feast of Corpus Christi for the first time. It was a time of great love and joy in the Church. The celebration was carefully planned to show how important the Eucharist is and to strengthen confidence that Christ is really present in the Blessed Sacrament. At the first Corpus Christi celebration, there was a somber parade of the Eucharist, which would become one of the most important parts of the holiday. The Blessed Sacrament was taken through the streets in a monstrance during this parade. This gave the faithful a chance to worship and respect Christ's presence in the Eucharist. The city of Orvieto, where Pope Urban IV was staying for a short time, became the center of the party. A beautiful church was built in Orvieto to house and protect the bloody body of Christ, which is the most important relic of the Bolsena miracle. This showed how important Orvieto was in the history of Corpus Christi. Building on the Cathedral of Orvieto, also known as the Duomo di Orvieto, began in 1290, a few years after the feast was first held. With its ornate exterior and grand interiors, this church is a gem of Italian Gothic architecture. In this way, the first celebration of Corpus Christi and the building of the Cathedral of Orvieto are linked events that left a long mark on Eucharistic devotion by honoring the Bolsena miracle and St. Juliana of Liège's vision. Many Christians are still moved and strengthened by these events, which show how important the Eucharist is to the Church's life and to the soul of its members. It is important to remember that different religions may not believe in or celebrate Corpus Christi during different times. There are people whose religious beliefs and practices do not include the Eucharist, or who do not believe that the bread and wine are the body and blood of Christ. Also, there may be philosophical and interpretive differences between what the Bible says about the Eucharist and what it really means. But it's important to remember that having faith in God and following the ideals of love, kindness, and mutual respect are what matter most, not different religions. Values that go beyond religion, like respecting different religions and working for peace and understanding between them, are important for making the world a more accepting and welcoming place for everyone. I hope the video was fun for you. To keep watching, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell to turn on alerts, leave a like, and click on one of the 2 videos that will show up. Thanks and God bless you.